how's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Children of the Corn from 1984. This is directed by Fritz Kiersch and stars Peter Horton and Linda Hamilton. Linda Hamilton, you guys probably know as Sarah Connor from the Terminator movies. Great to see her pop up in here. Rounding out the cast, we have Franklin and Courtney Gains. Now, this is of course based on a short story by Stephen King, one of the earlier short stories actually, collected all the way back in Night Shift. And this is definitely one of the more memorable Stephen King movies. You have a lot of really cool elements going on in here. A mysterious abandoned town. Where did all the people go? Oh, there's some kids, but they're not just any horror movie creepy kids. They're in a cult. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack. I will say the absolute best, strongest part of this movie is the town of Gatlin itself. You have to drive for a long way through the cornfields to get to here, and you really do capture that sense of isolation. The idea of a mysterious town where everyone seems to have gone missing, I mean, that's classic stuff going all the way back to Roanoke, and then later on even Silent Hill would use this. I love exploring. I love the set dressing, how everything has just corn stuffed everywhere and the kids decorated it. It's a really, really good place to explore, and they got a good big abandoned town to shoot in. Gatlin's awesome. And then the idea with the kids. I mean, we've seen creepy kids before, but a whole lot of them, and they're in a cult. And talking about a cult, it's going into manipulation. These kids are being deceived, they're being manipulated, but it doesn't sound like by a human. They keep talking about he who walks behind the corn rows, and the idea that there would be some crazy force in there messing with these kids. It's super, super creepy and disturbing. And yeah, it's such an interesting idea. Now, I will say the movie's biggest flaw is how much we do see of the children of the corn themselves. If you kept them more in the shadows, it would have been much more mysterious. But instead, we get lots of scenes with them plotting and planning, and we basically know what's going on. Don't get me wrong, the actors that play Isaac and Malachi are doing an absolute great job, and it's good that we got more of their performance. But I mean, at times this kind of feels like a surprisingly dark kids' adventure movie with just how much we get of the children of the corn themselves right there in the daylight with scenes told from their perspective. Overall, it's a good idea. I just wish it was a little darker and a little bit more mysterious. Overall, this is one of the Stephen King classics. I don't know if it quite breaks the top 10 though. It's definitely in the top 20. But then again, what do I know? Because this is Stephen King's longest running movie franchise. Believe it or not, they made 11 of these things, and I'm sure I'll get to them eventually, but boy, that's got my work cut out for me. But yeah, even if it's not perfect, I definitely recommend checking it out. It's just got a lot going on here that plays out pretty well. But anyway, I do want to take a moment and talk a bit about the plot and more specifics. I'm not going to do any major spoilers, but I do want to break down and analyze a few plot points, so I'll be avoiding the end bits, but from here on out, let's take a bit of a deeper dive. We open up with a prologue section that takes place 3 years ago. We get the main kid leaving church, and his sister is at home sick, and she's drawing mysterious prophetic drawings in crayon. I guess she's got a bit of the shine in her. But these two kids are the only kids in town that aren't off in the woods with Isaac. Well, the kid and his dad go to a diner, and while they're in the diner, they start to see some of Isaac's friends. Well, it's a bit of a tense scene, and eventually, of course, Isaac and his friends will kill all the adults in town. Something has caused these kids to turn on the adults, and that's going to lead to the fall of the town. As I said at the top, I do wish this movie was more mysterious, and all the kids turning and killing everybody does make for a good hook. But later on when we see Gatlin, we kind of already know what happened here. And on top of this, we do get the main kid actually narrating all of this. So overall, this opening scene is a bit too expository. It's not terrible, but I kinda wish we cut it. We then jump to our two main characters. There's this guy, he's going to be a doctor, and he's going to do a residency somewhere. Because of the residency, he has to move all the way across the country, and he's there with his young girlfriend, and the two are really lovey-dovey, but you can tell from a few lines that she's kinda wishing he would commit more. She's moving with him, but he still hasn't even proposed yet. Well, the two get in their car and begin to drive through the corn, and I really do like this sequence. It goes on for a bit, and it shows you how there's just nothing out there but miles and miles of corn. If you've ever actually gotten a chance to drive through these in real life, yeah, let me tell you, it's super accurate. It's super isolating, and I can totally see why Stephen King would write a story about this. Well, eventually the monotony is interrupted when a kid runs into the road. They hit him, and at first they're worried, thinking they just killed someone, but when the doctor examines the kid, it turns out he's been stabbed and was doomed to death anyway before he got hit by the car. But if he was stabbed, who exactly killed him? They've seen signs for this town, Gatlin, and that's apparently the closest place, so let's wrap up the body, go there, and look for help. Well, of course they get to Gatlin and find that most of the town is completely deserted. We get to see a bunch of empty buildings, and we get a good amount of time exploring, and we get a whole bunch of corn. Literally, the sets are decorated with corn, like the children went through and kind of took over the town. In a way, it does read as an infection that kind of spread over everything. Again, Gatlin is super cool, and I absolutely love it. And they have to wonder, of course, what happened here? How could a whole town disappear? They'll eventually get in contact with those two kids from the opening, and it turns out they're a bit of outsiders. They weren't there when he who walks behind the corn rows revealed himself to the other kids. However, they aren't adults, so it's kind of an uneasy truce for these two. But they begin to say stuff, they begin to drop clues, they begin to talk about Alex and Malachi, and the kids' prophetic drawings provide a bit of backstory as to what happened here. But that being said, it's just the doctor and his girlfriend figuring out the mystery. We already know a lot of it, and again, just for the sake of pacing and revealing and stuff, I do wish the Children of the Corn was way more mysterious. But no, as all this is going on, we get several scenes checking in with the children. But it is a pretty interesting power dynamic. We get Isaac, and I believe they say Isaac was like a young childhood preacher, and he got influenced by something. And I love this idea. Like, when they're just doing like preacher stereotypes, that's not super interesting. It's a little bit campy, and I wasn't a huge fan of that. But when we got to see the idea of false prophets instead, that's really where this movie shines. The more we hear about he who walks behind the cornrows and that something's influencing them. And again, that goes into the set dressing, corrupting the world around it. And there's even like paintings in the church that the kids have drawn over and stuck corn in, and they've changed these historical figures. There's even a line where the guy looks at a Bible and says, "What are you, rewriting the parts you don't agree with?" Yeah, there's parts in here that's very stereotypical Stephen King, Carrie's mom stuff, but there's other parts in here that really do work. And when it does go into the narrative of he who walks behind the cornrows, more specifically, that's when this stuff really gets interesting. There's also a really interesting power dynamic between Isaac and Malachi. The idea that Isaac is for real into all this. He really believes, and he's passionate, but Malachi's someone who saw the world crumble around him and wants to take advantage of it. He kind of just wants to go around and kill things. He's a dangerous, reckless force. and Isaac and Malachi will constantly butt heads. It's a really interesting subplot in this movie, and I really did like seeing those two go up against each other. But of course, the rest of the movie will be finding out about the children and trying to get out of town. But when you have a bunch of kids that could be anywhere, it's not going to be super easy, and we will get some pretty fun chase sequences. And then an ending that really does swing for the fences. Overall, I think Children of the Corn could have been a little bit better if it was more mysterious, and also why does so much of this movie take place during the day? When we finally get to night, it is really cool. So yeah, there's a lot that works for this. It could have been punched a little bit more, but overall it's still such an interesting idea that I really do think this movie's pretty cool. And apparently so did a lot of other people, because again, 11 of these things? That's crazy. I'll try to get to them sometime in the future, but it will take me a while. Anyway though, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Stephen King playlist. If you want to see me talk about more movies based on his stories, you can click right here and see more. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Playlist here. Have a good day now.